Hello YouTube and welcome back. Today we're going to go through how to get fast fat loss results. Okay? Now everybody loves to get fast fat loss results. Everybody's talking about it. It's one of the most searched things out there. People just want fast results. Now I'm going to show you how to get that, but I'm also going to show you the realistic expectations that come with it. Okay? Because it might not necessarily be something that you actually want. It might not necessarily be something that you actually need. Okay, in the long term, it might be something that actually could potentially not be as beneficial as you think. But I'm first of all going to talk about how to get fast results because it is possible. But then I'll go on to those realistic expectations. What we need to understand when it comes to fat loss, to achieve fat loss, you need to be in a calorie deficit. A calorie deficit is taking in less calories than you're burning. Okay. Now, the rate at which you're going to get results, the rate at which you're going to drop body fat, drop weight, will be a direct comparison of how big of that deficit you were in. So simply put, the bigger the deficit, the faster you're going to lose weight, drop body fat. Okay? So, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to show you an example of what that might look like. An example. So you can get an idea of how you can get faster results if that's something you are after. Okay? Now, we're going to use a rough estimate, okay, of working out how much weight you might drop per week. Okay, going off this what's called this 500 calorie rule. Okay, that states that if you're in a 500 calorie deficit a day, that's going to equate to 1 pound a week loss. Okay, again, this is just rough estimates, but it can be something you can use to roughly get an idea of how fast you're going to lose weight or to predict a rate of loss. And then obviously if you're measuring progress with that, you're going to be able to make adjustments if need be, to get that rate of loss you're after. So let's get into the example, okay? In this example, this individual, their maintenance intake, so their maintenance intake is where your weight's not going to shift. It's not going to go up, it's not going to go down. You've got that energy balance where intake is the same as expenditure, okay? And your weight's going to hold. For this individual, their maintenance intake is 2,500 calories, okay? They're training 4 times a week and they're doing 7,000 steps a day. This is just an idea. This is just a picture that we're painting, okay? 2,500 calories as maintenance is quite good. Not everyone's going to be in that boat, and that's what I'm going to come on to in a minute. But this is just an example, okay? Now, let's say this person wanted to aim for 1 pound a week loss. We know that we can roughly look at putting ourselves into a 500 calorie deficit a day to reach that 1 pound a week loss. Now, when you create a deficit, that can come from anywhere. That can come from increased expenditure, that can come from decreased intake. It can come from combined effort. So it comes down to you and your preference as to where you want to create that deficit. But this individual, because their intake is already quite high at 2,500, let's just make it easy and say they're going to drop calories by 500 a day. That's going to put them in a 500 calorie deficit. Okay, so at 2,000 calories a day rather than 2,500, this person's going to be losing a pound a week, right? Now, this person wants faster results. They want faster weight loss, faster fat loss. How are we going to achieve that? We increase the size of the deficit. Okay? So at the minute we're in a 500 calorie deficit a day. If we increase that to a 1,000 calorie deficit a day, then that's going to equate to roughly, again, 2 pounds lost a week. Again, we can take that from food, we can take that from increased expenditure. The options are, there for you to choose. Let's just make it simple again, and let's just say they're going to take it completely from food, so they're going to drop their calorie intake to 1,500 calories a day. So when they're at 1,500 calories a day, they're going to drop 2 pounds a week because they're in that 1,000 calorie deficit daily. Okay? Now let's say that's not enough and they want to go to 3 pounds a week. If they want to go to 3 pounds a week, they've got to increase the size of the deficit again. Okay? Now again, as a rough estimate, that would be a 1,500 calorie deficit daily. Now, to do that from food, that would mean being on 1,000 calories a day. Not really achievable, not really realistic, very unhealthy, probably wouldn't end well. So let's say that they want to increase expenditure to try and help with that. Again, the amount of calories you burn from expenditure isn't exact maths, so it would be something that you'd have to adjust, look at in terms of progress and seeing how your weight's responding. But we're going to just give it a rough sort of guesstimate here as to how we could potentially do that. So we're going to say that they're going to keep calories at 1,500 because going below that would maybe cause too many issues, too many adherence issues. They wouldn't be able to stick to the diet. But they're going to take sessions from 4 up to 5, and they're going to take steps from 7,000 daily up to 10,000 daily. This increase in expenditure is going to add, or going to create that bigger deficit by 500 calories. Again, roughly, not exact maths, just using an example. And that's going to equate to £3 a week lost now, okay? So in terms of the calories, the deficit's the same. In terms of, intake, the deficit's the same. But because we've added more expenditure now, the size of that deficit's actually going to be a little bit bigger. So I've just extended that a little more. Hopefully you can see that the dotted line, just to show that you can do a combination of both intake and expenditure. So in terms of intake, it's the same, but with added expenditure, that deficit's going to be actually a little bit bigger. Hopefully that's quite simple in terms of how you're going to get faster results. That deficit needs to be bigger. Okay, but now let's go on to realistic expectations. Number one, not everyone's going to have a maintenance of 2,500 calories. Okay, some people's maintenance might be 2,000, might even be lower. So to create such a size deficit might not be realistic for a lot of people, because you might not be able to drop intake as much, because you might be getting close to just unhealthy levels of intake, which one, you aren't going to feel great on, it's going to be unhealthy, but two, you're not going to be able to stick to the diet. Plus, if you do start at a lower calorie intake, you're not going to be able to bump up expenditure so high to be able to make up this calorie deficit from not being able to drop intake, okay? So you're not going to be able to take expenditure up to like 20,000 steps and 8 sessions a week or something ridiculous, because again, it's just unrealistic, it's unhealthy. You're not going to be able to stick to it, you're not going to adhere to it. So number one, some people just will not be able to create such a size deficit because of the situation they're in. People live different lives, people are different individuals. Some people hold more muscle mass, some people are heavier. All these things come into play to dictate where your starting situation is, which is going to dictate the size of deficit you can create. Number two, understand that the bigger calorie deficit you're in, the harder it's going to be to sustain. Okay, hunger levels are going to be higher, energy levels are going to be lower, sleep might become affected, mood's going to be not as good, training performance isn't going to be as good. It's going to be easier to accidentally, or without really being thoughtful of it, mindful of it, take calories up. It's going to be easier to actually allow calories to drop through expenditure because you're not going to have as much energy. All these things, all these complications are going to come into play with a bigger size deficit that you're in for the longer amount of time you're there. Number three, also understand that, if you do go down this road trying to drop body weight pretty fast, you have these big calorie deficits and all these things that I've just spoken about that might occur. When you transition out of that, once you've got the result that you want, that transition back out of that has to be in a way that is controlled so that you can maintain the results that you've got. One issue a lot of people have when they go for fast results is that when they transition out of where they've been, which is typically a big deficit, they do it in a way that isn't really managed or controlled, and it's done so fast that they end up going right back and actually over maintenance, because your maintenance intake can change as well, to the point where they then start getting some weight regain, whatever it might be, but they end up actually reversing, which can be because of multiple factors, but one of those big factors is because the way they went about it was so extreme that it's hard to manage as they come out of it. So that's how you drop body weight, drop body fat fast, okay? That's how you do it. Simply bigger deficit, bigger sort of rate of loss you're going to get, but got to be realistic with the expectations that come with it, the complications that might come with it. Is it worth it? Maybe. Or it might be worth taking longer at a slower rate that you're going to be able to sustain afterwards, much more likely. Hopefully this has helped. Any questions, please do let me know. If this video has helped, if you've enjoyed it, please drop a like, please drop a comment, and please do subscribe, because we're going to be putting out more videos weekly to help you guys. Take care. Peace.